Hi, and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. My name is Colin White. I'm the Senior Manager of Program Impact and Training here at AmeriCorps Seniors, and it's my pleasure to talk about our performance measures this afternoon. Today, we'll review national performance measures for the funding opportunity for the foster grandparent and the senior companion programs. Here's some just basic information about the notice that was recently announced. Just to reiterate, applications are due by close of business on February 3rd of this year. Great. And this is a part of a series of webinars that AmeriCorps Seniors will give. As you can see, this is the last in that series. However, we have recordings of each of the additional webinars that are located on our website. So here's our agenda for today. I'm going to do a couple of things. We're going to talk about national performance measures in general. For those of you who may have attended some of our other webinars in this series, you'll know that we really haven't been able to get there with talking about performance measures at least a little bit of the time. We'll also start by going through the work plans and then talk about how you can allocate your volunteers across your work plans within your application. So our agency has a uniform set of measurements that are used across AmeriCorps Seniors and AmeriCorps. It allows grantees to measure and assess your effectiveness and communicate to key stakeholders. It allows AmeriCorps to tell a unified story about the impact of our programs. So as we think about why performance measures, there's a couple reasons for that. All in all, we are a federal program and we take our role as stewards of taxpayer dollars seriously. If you receive an AmeriCorps Seniors grant and you become a steward of taxpayer dollars as well, and that comes with certain responsibilities, including the responsibility to collect relevant data, measure your impact, and use the information to improve and increase your impact. So why do we measure performance? One reason is accountability. Performance measurement satisfies the needs of our funders and stakeholders. And this can include AmeriCorps participants, board members, community members, staff, and clients to see that the program or project is getting results. Performance measurement helps you communicate achievements in a way that funders and stakeholders will find meaningful and compelling. Another reason to measure performance is to determine if the change you thought would happen with your intervention is actually occurring. Performance measurement is a systematic way to collect reliable information about the intervention's implementation and progress toward outcomes. You can also use performance measurement data to spot and correct problems. Are you reaching the population you intended? Do some people require more or less intensive service to show a positive outcome? Even when an intervention is implemented exactly as planned, performance measurement can help you find ways to strengthen the intervention to make it more effective. And performance measurement is a way to get feedback, so you know if your intervention is making the expected difference and helps you decide how to make the most effective use of limited resources. So what are some of the benefits about using national performance measures? Well, AmeriCorps can focus efforts on national priorities, so areas of need where national services had success and experience. National performance measures provide the data for a strong agency-wide narrative to tell the national service story. AmeriCorps will collect high-quality data and aggregate the results of similar interventions to demonstrate the powerful impact of national service. And to ensure that AmeriCorps can aggregate the data and report results with confidence, we give guidance for our national performance measures, which includes definitions for the intervention, target population, output and outcome, and information on collecting data and calculating the measure. So before I dive into the performance measures, I want to briefly discuss how we at AmeriCorps structure our measures. there are a couple of different components, and we'll walk through all of the different components in a bit. As you can see, it's a pretty a broad triangle, so it's pretty broad down there at the focus area, and then it gets more specific as you go up the pyramid. So let's kind of quickly discuss about each one of these, what they mean, and we'll start with the focus area. There are several AmeriCorps focus areas for FGP and SCP, our stipend programs. The primary focus areas are education, economic opportunity, and healthy futures. Just for reference, all of our programs at AmeriCorps have 6 focus areas. The objective is a general category within each focus area. So, looking at the education focus area as an example, you can see that it's translated into 2 slightly more specific objectives: school readiness and K through 12 success. So we're getting a little bit more concrete in terms of the specific kind of activity that's going on, but granted, still pretty broad. Now we'll get into the specific measures, and these are reflected in outputs and outcomes. Every national performance measure output must be paired with a single outcome. For each performance measure, applicants must select one output and one of the associated outcomes. And so now let's dive into outputs and outcomes. It's through outputs and outcomes that we're able to measure performance. We know that performance measurement is the ongoing systematic process of tracking your program or project's outputs and outcomes. Outputs are the amount of service provided. So they will measure the completion of activities and document the fact that individuals received services, products were created, or programs were developed. They answer the question, how much service did we perform? They do not answer the question, what changed as a result of the service provided? Outcomes reflect the changes or benefits that occur. Outcomes can reflect changes in individuals, organizations, communities, or the environment. This may include changes in attitudes, knowledge, behavior, or condition. For example, changes within an organization may include an enhanced system to better serve community members. Outcomes answer the question, what difference did our service make for beneficiaries? In general, the most compelling outcomes address changes in behavior or conditions. However, what makes a change compelling is not just the type of change, but the magnitude of that change. And of course, the change should reflect the activity's intended purpose. So let's talk a little bit about the types of outcomes we might see, including changes in attitude or belief, knowledge or skill, behavior, or condition. Outcomes regarding attitude and belief involve a change in thought or feeling. For example, a caregiver feels they may have more social support after receiving respite services. Outcomes measuring knowledge and skill involve a change in understanding or ability, what a person learns. For example, a student improves their reading ability after attending a tutoring session. Outcomes addressing behavior involves changes in actions, such as conducts or habits, often in a specific context. For example, a student improves their class participation after participating in a school mentoring program. And finally, outcomes regarding condition involve a change in situation or circumstance. For example, a family is transitioned into safe, affordable housing after receiving referrals and counseling, or a community receives a new after-school program because a youth organization has been able to build its capacity to provide resources. So let's review our specific performance measurement requirements as it relates to this application. You must submit a work plan that results in an output and an outcome specified in our national performance measures. All unduplicated volunteers, or in this case, volunteer service years, must be placed in the work plan. And the maximum cost per volunteer service year, or VSY, may not exceed the allowable cost per VSY. So as you know, we have a lot of important key documents on our website. The most important document is the Notice of Funding Opportunity. However, I want to draw your attention to two other tools that we are going to talk about and should be used for your application. One is the Appendix B, National Performance Measure Instructions, and the second is the Work Plan Development Worksheets. The National Performance Measure Instructions summarizes our performance measurement requirements, and our Work Plan Development Worksheet allows you to plan work plans outside of eGrants, our grants management system. The tools we would use for performance measures, again, are found in our Appendix B, National Performance Measure Instructions. These instructions includes all of our performance measures. The national performance measures are like a menu. You will select the measure that best describes what you do. And as you can see, they're organized in terms of focus area. We do have instructions at the beginning of this appendix, and that is the place you would go to learn more about it in depth. I also want to take a brief minute to highlight our work plan development template, which is designed to help you plan your performance measures. The worksheet can help you organize how you will fit your performance measures together with your volunteer activities. We really recommend that you use the worksheets and instructions to map out your work plans, and then use the completed worksheets to transfer the information into our eGrants system. Now, all of this information can be found in our performance measure instructions and application instructions, but I want to walk through them with you. The following sections must be completed for all of our work plans. First is the description of community need. So the description of the community need must be completed for each output you select. This need statement should explain the compelling need that will be addressed by the volunteers. Outputs. As I mentioned, outputs are the immediate result of the volunteer service. They usually count numbers, so number of children served, etc. There's the service activity or activities, which are the tasks that volunteers will perform. The service activities description should explain what the AmeriCorps seniors volunteers are doing in a way that shows how they will achieve the outputs and outcomes. Here's where you will state who the beneficiaries are and what the volunteers will be doing with the beneficiaries, state how often volunteers will provide the service and for how long, and state where the service will take place. For each output, you may select more than one service activity, and our service activities can be selected using a pull-down menu in our eGrants system. The next is the number of unduplicated volunteers or the number of volunteer service years. This is the proposed number of volunteer service years that will be performed for each service activity. Each VSY can be counted only once when it is assigned to a service activity. And we'll further discuss volunteer service years in a slide later in the presentation. There's the total number of volunteers, and here you enter the total volunteers engaged in the activities if you assign all of them according to each activity. In this way, volunteers can be counted more than once. For example, if the same volunteer does two different types of activities, such as tutoring and mentoring, you can account for both assignments in the field. Targets. This is the target is the number that you anticipate achieving in the last year of your performance period. For example, if you think your volunteers will serve 50 children in the third year of your performance period, you will enter 50 as a target. Outcomes, and again, as I mentioned, outcomes are the long-term permanent change or improvement expected in the community due to the volunteers and their service. The outcomes, like outputs, will be selected using the pull-down menu in our eGrants system. And finally, our instruments used for tracking outputs and outcomes. This is a tool that will be used for data collection, and we have a list of instruments that you can select using a pull-down menu. I want to come back to allocating volunteer service years across our work plans. What does that mean? You will fill out a different work plan for each set of performance measures that you use, and you will need to assign a certain number of VSY to that work plan. Now, you've heard me reference volunteer service year or VSY. This is a budget term that equates to 1,044 hours of volunteer service activity. This funding opportunity requires applicants to demonstrate cost-effective practices in achieving performance goals through the services described in the proposed work plan. Applications must include work plans that meet the following minimum requirements in that for volunteer assignments, for our stipend volunteers, for every $6,500 in federal funding, at least one volunteer service year must be placed in a work plan that results in a national performance measure outcome for that selected focus area. It's fairly simple to calculate the number of VSYs you will need, and common arithmetic rules should be used to determine how to round VSYs in outcome-based work plans. Grantees should round to the nearest whole number. So in this example, say an applicant requests $300,000 in federal funding. This would require 46.1 VSY and work plans that result in national performance measure outcomes. So just dividing that $300,000 by $6,500. Since 46.1 is less than 46.5, this would round down to 46 VSY that would be required in work plans that result in national performance measure outcomes. As I said, a volunteer service year is a budget term, which equals 1,044 hours per year. So for example, a volunteer that serves 2,080 hours per year, which is basically a volunteer averaging 40 hours per week, equates to 2 VSYs, while a volunteer serving 783 hours per year, so someone averaging 15 hours per week, serves as 3/4 of a VSY. Oh, next slide, please. So a quick recap, AmeriCorps accepts applicants to use national performance measures as part of a comprehensive performance measurement strategy that relies on both performance and evaluation data to learn from their work and make tactical and strategic adjustments to achieve their goals. Applicants are required to use the identified performance measures outlined in this notice. And for more information, I would refer you to Appendix B, our performance measure instructions. Applicants must identify a primary focus area, and the work plan must include service activities within that selected primary focus area. And finally, this funding opportunity requires applicants to demonstrate cost-effective practices. So for every $6,500 in federal funding, at least one volunteer service year must be placed in a work plan that results in national performance measure outcomes for that selected focus area. So just a quick poll, I guess, at the end, just to see to see what you would choose. So would you choose your output and outcome targets based on A, what you think is a big enough number for CNCS, B, an assumption that you will reach everyone in the community and that the program will have its intended effects on 100% of its recipients, C, a realistic estimate of how many people you can expect to reach, and the realistic impact of the program on those people informed by your own research, your potential partners, and the input of others who know your community and the field, or D, a dartboard. Great. Thank you so much for getting this right. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That was our presentation. I know we have a pretty intimate audience right now. So I will see if my camera is working to go on camera, and I, as well as my colleague Emily Flanagan, are happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Colin. So just a quick reminder to our attendees, if you have questions, this is a great opportunity to really pick AmeriCorps Seniors' collective brain on performance measures. You'll want to make sure that you're using the question and answer function on Zoom.
Great. So as I give it a pause here, I'm just going to put into a chat the link to the AmeriCorps Seniors Foster Grandparent and Senior Companion Program replacement opportunity. It's this link that will have all of the deadlines, recordings of previous trainings, our notice of funding opportunity, a frequently asked questions document, as well as other all other materials. So let me get that. Again, applications are due by 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, February 3rd of this year. Now, give it a brief moment, but I do appreciate those that chose to spend their afternoon with Emily and I today. We think this is a great opportunity for organizations across the country. And we also want to thank you all for the work that you and your organizations have been doing. We know it's been a trying couple years, and we do appreciate it. And we hope this is an opportunity that you can take advantage of to further the impact of your organization and volunteers in your community. So not seeing any questions, I will log off. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time this afternoon. We do appreciate it.